Hi everyone, and today we will be discussing about two topics which are very key for this course, and of course, at times we will be using these two concepts in a very frequent way. So, the two concepts were HR metrics and the benchmarking. Okay. In the syllabus, they have mentioned this as HR metrics versus benchmarking. Let us look at what is this HR metrics is all about. So HR metrics basically the measurement tools which is used to determine the value and the effectiveness of HR initiatives. So when I say HR initiatives, the HR functions doing their job, for example, being a recruiter, you will be doing recruitment. So recruitment involves so many activities. So all these initiatives can be measured in terms of the kind of value that these activities are adding to the organization and how far they are effective. Okay. Typically includes such as turnover, training, return on human capital, cost of labor, expenses per employees. So these are all a few metrics which are commonly used in HR analytics. So as I said earlier, they are the measurement of the value and the effectiveness of various HR initiatives that the HR department has taken. Okay. Similar line, there is a concept called as HR benchmarking. Okay, I think benchmarking is a very popular management jargon which is being used. So normally benchmarking is about you look at some standard which is already existing either internally or from the outside organization. There are some standards which are being practiced, and those practices will act like a benchmarks. Okay, so benchmark is a process that is used in order to compare similar characteristics across the organization in order to identify milestones. Okay, in short, of a compare and contrast system of determining success and best practices. Imagine there is an XYZ company in the IT industry. They are taking 15 days of lead time to hire freshers. So if a bunch of companies who are started doing this, then many people they felt that this is a very optimal duration of the time to hire freshers to do till from giving out the ads to finishing the onboarding process. So, though that best practice of having 15 days to hire fresher will become a benchmark. So, if any company wants to test whether they are having a good practice in hiring fresher, the one benchmark which they can be used is are we taking 15 days of time or more than that? So this best practices will be usually will be treated as they are the standards to adopt new practices. So normally every company try to achieve these benchmarks in certain areas. It's not only about recruitment in many areas. Okay, so that is about HR benchmarking. So there are, I just wanted to compare these two so that you will have some fair idea. It is used to determine the value and effectiveness of HR initiatives. So the purpose is to find the value and the effectiveness. Okay. Here it is to compare between the different organization or a section of an organization. So here it is used to gauge the effectiveness of various HR responsibilities and initiatives such as hiring, employee retention, training, labor cost. The same thing, even in benchmarking, it will be done. Instead of measuring it in terms of the value or in terms of the effectiveness, where these things were determined internally. So benchmarking is more of it's a comparison of these policies, practices, or metrics, and they should be in comparison with any of the standard which has been developed in the industry or within the organization. Some section of the organization might have developed certain standards in terms of practices. So those things will become HR benchmarking. So HR metrics usually developed internally because you say that you are good at this. So benchmarking is more of comparing with the standard which is there in the industry. There are a few examples. If you look at the examples which I have quoted, like absentees rate, absent rate, overtime expenses, productivity, training expense, training effectiveness, efficiency, employee happiness. These things can be measured. Okay. Now, to measure these things, we need some optimal or some standard, and when you can always say once we cross this standard, once we attain these optimal standard, then we can say that okay, we are doing good. So that refers to a benchmark. Metrics is basically about measurement. Benchmark is something where you try to improvise your process or improvise your practices in comparison with some of the best practices which is already available in the industry or within the organization. I think if you take out the examples like total cost, work compensation, paid leaves, recruitment process, training, retention rate, absenteeism, the same thing is there like how it is there with HR metrics. The element which is there with HR benchmark is here we do a comparison, whereas HR metrics there is nothing like a comparison. Otherwise, in both, here it is basically about finding the value and measurement. Here, how do I find the value and the effectiveness? By comparing with the other best practices which are available. So this is about the HR metrics versus benchmarking. So thank you.